I'm Sergeant Logan White, 38 years old, and I've given 16 years of my life to the United States Marine Corps. I've spent more time in uniform than out of it, more nights on base than at home, and more birthdays deployed than with my own family. And I've never once questioned that sacrifice, not until the day everything shifted. When I first joined, I was green and eager, like most of us are at that age. But I had one thing going for me that not many did. I served under General Richard Hawkins. He was more than a superior officer. He was a mentor, someone who didn't just give orders, but taught you how to lead, how to carry yourself, and more importantly, how to earn respect without demanding it. Over the years, we built something that felt like a well-oiled machine. He trusted me with responsibilities others would have had to claw their way toward, and I never let him down. Every time he needed someone to step up, I was already there. Whether it was logistics, tactical planning, or troop morale, I had his back and he had mine. It wasn't just duty, it was loyalty. But even the best don't last forever. When General Hawkins announced his retirement, it hit me harder than I expected. The man who'd shaped my entire career was stepping away, and no one knew who'd fill his shoes. I assumed it'd be someone seasoned, someone who understood how we operated and could keep things running steady. What I didn't expect was Evan Hawkins, his son, fresh out of D.C. and a fast riser in command, sharp suit, polished resume, and not a scar on him. The kind of guy who walks into a room, expecting it to adjust to him. When the announcement came that Evan would be taking over the command post, I stood silent. My chest tightened, not out of jealousy, but because deep down, I knew what was coming. This wasn't going to be a smooth transition. This was the moment everything I'd built started to shift. And it was only the beginning. The first time I saw Evan Hawkins walk onto base, it was like watching a reality TV star step into a war zone. He didn't even try to blend in. Aviators, spotless uniform, perfect posture like he was posing for a recruitment ad. But what struck me wasn't how he looked. It was how he looked at us like we were beneath him. He didn't shake hands, didn't ask names, just strutted through the courtyard, nodding like he was doing everyone a favor by being there. He stopped in front of me, looked me up and down, then said something I'll never forget. "You must be Sergeant White. Dad said you were a relic around here." A relic? That word sat heavy in my gut, like bad rations. I didn't flinch. I'd been called worse in combat zones. But this was different. This wasn't a punk kid mouthing off. This was the new CO, the man who now held the reins of everything I'd helped build. I looked him in the eye and gave a simple nod. No salute, no words, just silence. Sometimes silence is louder than shouting. He moved on, barking at a group of junior officers to fall in. One of them turned to me with wide eyes like he wasn't sure what he'd just witnessed. I didn't say anything, just walked back toward the barracks, each step heavier than the last. There's a weight to knowing a storm is coming and realizing no one else sees the clouds yet. Over the next few days, Evan made it clear he wasn't interested in learning how things worked. He replaced seasoned instructors with people from his old units, cut training hours, ignored chain of command. But worst of all, he tried to lead through fear ordering, criticizing, never listening. I watched him undo years of discipline and trust in a matter of weeks. One afternoon, he called a meeting with senior staff. I sat through the briefing as he dismissed ideas before they were finished. When it came time for me to present intel from a recent simulation, he waved me off. "We're not doing it the old way anymore, Sergeant. This isn't your generation's fight. You're effective but outdated." That stung more than I'd like to admit. I'd taken bullets for this flag, watched men break down in my arms, spent nights in freezing mud to hold lines he couldn't even find on a map. And now I was being told I was past my expiration date by someone who hadn't seen a day of real combat. Still, I said nothing, because I knew if I opened my mouth, it wouldn't just be words coming out. It'd be every ounce of frustration I'd kept bottled for years. And that's not the kind of soldier I was trained to be. Instead, I took a deep breath and stood up from my chair. I locked eyes with him as I left the room. No salute, no goodbye, just that same silence. Let him wonder what I was thinking, because part of me already knew. This wasn't going to end clean. It happened on a Tuesday, no warning, no heads up from command. I was called into Evan's office like it was just another strategy briefing. I walked in, stood at attention, and waited for his usual smug tone. But this time, he didn't bother with theatrics. He just slid a folder across the desk and told me I was being relieved, effective immediately. He called it restructuring. Said the unit was going through a shift in direction. That my role was no longer aligned with the current objectives. His voice was cold, flat, like he was reading from a script someone else had written. I didn't ask questions, didn't argue. I knew better than to beg for a seat at a table where I was no longer welcome. I stood there for a second too long, letting the words settle. Then I nodded once and walked out. The hallway felt longer than usual. Every footstep echoed louder than it should have. No one looked at me. No one spoke. It was like I'd been erased in real time, like the years I gave meant nothing now that someone else was in charge. I packed up in silence. Just a duffel bag and a few framed photos, one of the old squad in Kandahar. One of me and General Hawkins after a successful op. They felt heavier than they should have. I didn't say goodbye, not because I didn't care, but because I couldn't trust my voice to stay steady. When I stepped off the base and into my truck, the sun was still out, clear sky, warm wind, but it felt cold inside my chest, like something had been carved out and replaced with stone. I started the engine, kept my eyes straight ahead, and drove. I didn't look back, not even once. I didn't rush when I packed up. Every item felt like it had weight beyond its size. The desk I'd sat at for years, the chair worn from long nights planning missions, even the nameplate, each one felt like a small goodbye. No one said anything, but I could feel the stares. Quiet ones, careful ones, like they didn't know if they should look away or offer a hand. Corporal Jenkins stood by the lockers for a minute too long, like he was about to say something but never found the words. Private Ortiz nodded at me from across the hall, a nod that carried more than any salute. But the silence said more than they ever could. No one agreed with what was happening. They just didn't know how to stop it. As I zipped up my bag, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Lieutenant Dale, one of the younger guys I'd mentored since he came out of OCS. He wasn't the type to text during work hours, but this one came through fast. "Sir, they're already making changes. Training schedules are chaos. Everyone's confused." I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I locked it and slid it into my pocket. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't care. I just knew nothing I could say would help, not yet. The storm hadn't hit, but I could smell the air changing. The kind of pressure you feel right before things fall apart. I stepped outside, the wind brushing against my face like it was trying to say something, and I listened. Because even though I was gone, I knew my absence wasn't just noticed. It was going to be felt. And when it did, they'd all remember who kept things standing in the first place. I had spent years building that training program. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't designed to impress high command or look good on a PowerPoint. It was real, ground-tested, shaped by field failures and quiet wins. The kind of program you only build after watching what happens when the wrong call gets someone hurt. I knew our strengths. I knew our weak spots. I made sure no one left that field unless they could carry the man next to them. Every layer of that system had a reason. Rotations built to prevent burnout, drills crafted to mimic the chaos no one could ever fully prepare for. Debriefs that dug deeper than just numbers. I didn't just train them. I made them believe they could hold the line no matter what hit them. And for a long time they did. Until Evan stepped in and tore it all apart like it was just another checkbox to erase. The messages started trickling in 3 days after I left. Lieutenant Dale again. "Sir, we lost half the squad in the last simulation. Timing was off. Orders conflicted. No one knew who to follow." Then one from Sergeant Fields. "Morale is tanking. Everyone's on edge. no cohesion. And another, short and sharp, we need direction. Fast. I read them all. Not surprised. Just tired. It wasn't arrogance. It was inevitability. Pull the roots out of any strong tree and watch how fast it topples. They didn't know that while Evan strutted through meetings, it was me who kept the daily fires under control. It was me who made sure the right people were in the right place. Quietly, consistently, without asking for credit, I leaned back in my chair at home, the phone still in my hand. I should have felt vindicated, but all I felt was a dull ache in my chest. Not because I was gone, but because they were the ones paying for it now. Young officers scrambling, good men second-guessing themselves. I saw it coming, every step, and I hated that I had been right. But now it was too late to stop what had already started. The notification came in just before dawn. A forwarded internal memo. The headline read like a hammer to the chest. Effective immediately. All advanced training operations are suspended pending review. No explanation. No plan to revise or resume. Just a freeze. Like someone hit pause on a machine that never should have stopped running. I read it twice. Then a third time. The lines didn't change, but the air around me felt different. I stared at the words like they might suddenly make sense. But deep down, I knew this wasn't about the program. It was about control. Evan was flailing, and someone upstairs was finally noticing. It was only a matter of time before the cracks became too wide to ignore. The call came an hour later. I saw the name on the screen and didn't move at first. General Hawkins. Retired, but not silent. Not today. I picked up. His voice was steady, but colder than I remembered. He didn't waste time. Said he had reviewed the latest reports. He'd seen the casualty projections, the missed objectives. Then he asked me one question. What the hell is happening to my unit? I didn't lie. I told him what I knew. That the systems had been stripped, the standards bent, the command lines blurred. That good officers were trying to hold the line with no real leadership guiding them. There was silence on the other end. Not confusion. Not even anger. Just the kind of pause you only hear when someone's faith is starting to crack. He sighed. Said he thought Evan just needed time. Said maybe he was wrong. I didn't say I told you so. I didn't need to. We both knew what this was. A shift. A hinge in the story. The moment when everything that seemed stable started to tilt. When the person everyone overlooked became the only one they could turn to. I hung up, heart pounding but calm. Because I knew. That door they slammed shut behind me was about to open again. And this time, I'd walk through it on my terms. The meeting was set for Sunday morning. General Hawkins asked to meet at a small military conference room off base, the kind of place where rank didn't matter as much as truth. I arrived 5 minutes early. He was already there, seated alone, staring at a folder on the table like it might offer some kind of excuse. But when he looked up, I saw it. Regret. Real and heavy. He didn't circle around it, just told me straight. He made a mistake. Said he thought his son could rise to the challenge, that the title would shape him. But it hadn't. It had only exposed everything Evan wasn't ready for. Then he looked me in the eye and said what I never expected to hear. We need you back. The program, the men, the mission, it's falling apart without you. I didn't answer right away. I let the silence stretch, not to punish him, just to feel the weight of the moment. Then I leaned forward, told him I'd come back, but not to fix someone else's mess while they still held the reins. If I returned, it would be with full control. And Evan? He needed to be removed from the chain of command. Not sidelined, removed. The general nodded, slowly. There was no fight in him, just a tired kind of acceptance. He'd seen the fallout, he'd heard the voices from the field, and he knew this wasn't just about patching a leak anymore. It was about rebuilding from the ground up. He reached into the folder, slid across an updated operations document, already reassigning Evan to a non-command position. I scanned it, signed nothing, but stood up. He asked if this meant I was back. I looked at him and said calmly, "No, General. It means you've got one shot left, and I'm the only one who can take it." Then I walked out. Not angry, just ready. Because, this time, I wasn't returning to prove anything. I was coming back to lead. On my terms. When I stepped back onto the base, the air was thick. Not with heat or wind, but with silence. That kind of heavy, loaded stillness when everyone knows something just shifted but no one says it out loud. I walked slow, not because I was uncertain, but because I didn't need to rush. Every step was a reminder that I didn't crawl back. I was called. Evan was standing near the operations center, jaw tight, arms crossed like he still believed he had some control left. He didn't. The directive from HQ was already posted. Effective immediately, he was removed from all tactical decision-making. He could observe, report, make coffee if he wanted, but he wasn't touching the command table. His eyes locked on mine, full of resentment. I didn't blink, didn't flinch. I just walked past him. Inside, the officers were already gathered. Not one person questioned it. No one hesitated. They stood a little taller when I entered, like the ground had finally stopped shifting beneath them. Lieutenant Harris handed me the mission brief without a word. Captain Reyes stepped aside so I could stand at the center of the table. It was instinct. Order finally restored. I laid out a new plan within minutes, adjusted unit placements, corrected timing errors, restructured the entire communications flow. Every move landed with clarity. And then the twist came. An aide from HQ stepped into the room, carrying an envelope with the official seal. He handed it to me in front of the entire team. I opened it slowly, already knowing what it meant. It was formal, unmistakable. I had been reinstated, but not just as a returning officer. I was now the designated field commander of the entire operation. HQ's signature was at the bottom. Evan's name wasn't anywhere on the page. I folded it once and tucked it into my vest. No speeches, no applause, just the quiet satisfaction of being right where I was supposed to be. This time, no one could take that from me. I had 72 hours to turn the ship around. That was all the time I asked for and all the time I needed. From the moment I stepped back into that control room, I didn't stop. Every hour mattered. I reviewed the training footage, combed through the failed strategy logs, talked to every squad leader, not to assign blame, but to understand where it went wrong. The first thing I did was restructure the communication flow. Orders were getting lost in translation, and hesitation had taken root. That had to go. I ran 3 rapid response drills back to back. By the end of the first day, we'd shaved minutes off deployment time. By the second, teams were moving like they had one mind. By the third, confidence returned to their steps. I didn't shout. I didn't throw weight around. I coached, corrected, and stayed with them. In the dirt, in the rain, shoulder to shoulder. I ate with them, trained with them, listened to them. I fixed broken systems and broken morale with the same level of care, one small step at a time. Then came the tactical exercise. Simulated but high stakes. It was the same scenario that had collapsed 2 weeks earlier under Evan's command. This time, every unit hit their mark. Coordination was fluid. Timing, flawless. Even HQ couldn't believe the shift. The debrief lasted 15 minutes. That's how clean it was. Later that night, I got the message. HQ had reviewed the exercise. They were appointing me as the official head of the Special Tactical Division, effective immediately. Evan had already been reassigned, sent to an administrative post overseas. There was no ceremony, just a quiet email with a digital signature. I closed the laptop and looked out over the training field. Lights still on, troops still drilling. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't smile or pump a fist in the air. This wasn't a win. It was a restoration. Of trust, of structure, of belief in something steady, something earned. I never wanted revenge. That kind of fire burns out fast. What I wanted was recognition, not applause or rank or medals. Just the understanding that I mattered. That my work mattered. that I wasn't a relic from another time, but a part of what still worked. I stood alone on that gravel path, boots wet, mind calm. There was no one watching, no one clapping, and I didn't need them to. I had done what I said I would. I came back and built something strong, something real. Evan would fade out of memory, but this team, this mission, would carry my name now. Not because I forced it, because I earned it. Looking back, it still surprises me how fast everything changed. One day, I was standing outside the gates, stripped of my role, watching someone else take the seat I had earned. A few weeks later, I was back at the center of it all. Same uniform, same boots, but with something different this time. Quiet control. A voice that didn't need to raise itself to be heard. I didn't argue when they pushed me out. I didn't beg to stay. I just stepped aside and waited for the storm to hit. Because deep down, I knew the structure would only hold for so long without its foundation. And when it started cracking, I didn't show up to say I told you so. I showed up to rebuild it. That was always the goal. Not to be right, but to be useful. There's power in silence, in not reacting out of anger or pride, but choosing to keep your integrity intact. You don't have to scream to be strong. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stay steady, even when no one's watching. That's how respect is earned, not through noise, but through presence. The world will test you. It will question your worth and push you aside when you least expect it. But if you hold your ground, stay true to what you know, and keep showing up when it matters, your value won't need to be shouted. It'll speak for itself. That's what happened to me. And maybe it's happening to you right now. So I'll ask you this. Have you ever been underestimated, only to come back stronger than they expected? Let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear your story.